This song's about me. I mean, you're painted...
Looking like Patti LaBelle.
You're painted for the gods,
Sure.
but in a different kind of way.
That was Wires of NYC on the intro.
Yeah. Oh, should we do it? Should we do it together? Okay, ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. Oh,
I didn't know what we were going to do. Were we saying welcome to Question Block?
yeah. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Question Block.
This is Secret Loft's podcast. This week the theme is gay rights and the history of LGBT rights and the Pride movement.
Q+.
LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
Yeah, not to exclude anyone. Any oversights or misrepresentations that we make during this podcast are because we are dumb and don't know that much history, but we really love our subject.
Yeah, we love it. We're
today.
big fans, and
We're big fans.
we just can't. We've been like ramping up for Pride all month, and like, yeah, this is like Pride Week.
Yeah, this is Pride Week. The I guess now 52nd anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising is in 4 days. It's the 28th.
The 26th, I think, right?
No,
28th. 28th.
26th is a Saturday. It's the 28th. But anyway, yeah, summer of '69, a lot of stuff happened, right? Like Woodstock, the height of like the hippie movement, and Stonewall. And yeah, also the anniversary of Judy Garland's death.
Yeah. But
So let's first, before we like,
I don't know.
we're not just picking up with Stonewall. There's centuries and millennia
There's so much.
of gay liberation and persecution. So
Well, not even that. It's just like let's just discuss like
okay,
you know, sexuality. Let's talk about sex and sexuality.
let's.
So, in 8000 BCE in Zimbabwe, that's like when the first depiction of like same-sex anything was found, but it probably goes back.
It's 850 BC.
8,000.
Oh, 8,000.
8,000.
Okay, so like in prehistory,
Yes, exactly.
before like written stuff, they had homoerotic art.
Yeah. Yeah, there were just all these pictures of they were like in engravings of two males like nuzzling, like nose smooshing.
Okay,
And then in Egypt a couple
sort of a Tom of Finland.
around like also in
8,000 years
prehistory in
ago.
Egypt there was like a similar, it was like a sand engraving painting thing, and it was like also of two men like canoodling, and it had an inscription that was like in like, you know, love in life and in the afterlife or something like that. And there are records of like Indian, Egyptian, Chinese, and Greek cultures being accepting of same-sex like interactions, love, unions, because they didn't think of like what was important to those cultures was like whether you were dominant or submissive
Okay.
in the relationship, and that was like the important thing, and that was sort of where the morals came into play, especially in Greece and the Roman Republic, which we can go a little bit more in depth into.
Okay.
Yeah? Do you get what I'm saying so far?
Yeah.
It makes
I
sense.
wonder if this is like a pet like theory or whatever, but I wonder if, right, so like prehistory or even early societies, like infant mortality is so high, everybody has lots of kids in their family, it's like can be tricky to have an heir, for example, to like pass your stuff on to.
Yeah.
So like questions of like lineage are very important for like inheritance reasons. And like when you have like a dynasty, like your emperor or whatever, like it's very important who like the father and mother of like a given kid is, right? So I think that explains part of like for the Romans or the Greeks, they're like they almost viewed it as a separate thing. They're like,
Yeah, they did,
homoerotic
100%.
attraction, fine, but like, you know, you are still going to raise some warrior sons, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I think they almost viewed it as two different things.
yeah, because there was so much, like, polygamy and, like, just, I mean, especially in Greek.
Well, the
culture.
Romans had like legal sex workers too, right? They had brothels.
So there's a
and
big
were not
distinction
squeamish about
between
it.
the empire and the republic. The Roman Republic was like much more chill, and like the Roman like empire though they had like rules against
Well, and I guess
homosexuality, and in 389 CE they took away homosexual rights and they made it like a crime.
well, because post Constantine, it was a
Right.
Christian empire.
Exactly. Well, no, this was like
Right.
it's like right before the Christianity was like really popping off. They were like no. But it's interesting because like in early Greek like or like I guess Athenian Greek culture, there were all these sort of like learning relationships between older men and like boys.
Like the mentor-mentee.
Yeah, and the boys would like sort of service the older men in exchange for knowledge. It was like an internship, but like it's like the kind of internship that gets people canceled today.
It's
with
like a
like
Harvey Weinstein.
yeah, but it was like
internship.
accepted. It was like yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So in retrospect, like the accepting of like homoerotic relations, cool. The pedophilia, not so much.
No. I
I'm
mean
just
back
saying,
then it
from
was
like
cool.
a modern view, looking back at the Greeks, you're like, oh, they were very progressive in some aspects.
But I mean, I don't know. It wasn't seen as like taking advantage. It was like it was all out on the table. So it was, you know, if you were like a young boy and you wanted to like get ahead, pun intended,
Nice.
in society,
Rim shot.
then you'd find a knowledgeable older sexy daddy and you'd trade. That's where the word trade comes
That's
from.
how Broadway works. I mean, sorry, Broadway.
It's okay. They're closed. They won't.
Yeah.
They're not listening right now.
Okay, so yeah, so you're saying it just has like throughout antiquity, there's like the presence of gay art,
Yeah,
and
and
it's not that big a deal.
it's not. It's actually like the norm. And I thought this was really cool in ancient Greek, Athenian Greek society. They said that like sexual attraction was like based on beauty. You know, they had the platonic ideals and stuff like that.
And your platonic friendships, yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. Like, it was just based on
Yeah,
beauty and
erotic love
perfection.
versus like platonic.
Something was beautiful, then you could have sex with it.
Oh, okay.
And then, but like, I mean, Christianity is kind of like sneaking in, and in 1200 BCE, Moses condemns cross-dressing and homosexuality, like to death, basically.
If he was a real historical person.
Yeah, Moses. This is like in the Old Testament.
So this is in the I guess the Torah.
Yeah,
It's like in there. It's like no cross-dressing.
no cross-dressing and no.
And I think these are like it's like
homosexuality.
the handful of Bible verses that like bigots like to cite. From
Exactly.
What the Bible says. It's like I don't give a shit. But yeah, that's there is scripture or whatever in the Bible when selectively picked out that forbids.
Leaders of the early Christian church condemn any non-procreating sex, and they call all of these forms of sex sodomy.
Yeah.
So people often think of sodomy as like, I guess, anal sex, right? Today?
Yeah, or it can be with an object.
Really?
Yeah.
Like in your butt or just anywhere?
You can be like sodomized by
Oh,
an
okay.
object or whatever. But named after that city, the city of Sodom, where they all were into that.
Man,
what a-
that sucks. I mean,
Now that's a
it'd
kinky
be like,
place. Yeah.
be like, hey, I'm from the island of Lesbos. I'm a lesbian. It's like, well, I'm from Sodom. I'm a sodomist.
Yeah. And you're like, and I thought Vegas was Sin City.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be from well, it got wiped off the map. I think that was like the story of like they were so evil that they were right. They were like God destroyed the city.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, and Lot's wife looked back at the city, and she like turned to stone.
And then someone sodomized themselves with her?
It's a very kind of Persephone style myth, I suppose.
She was the first, like, dildo modeled after someone.
All right, I'm going to stop you there.
But,
So did you, like, in researching this in the history of, like, when the Christian church declared it, like, illegal, or, like, and also the right of Christianity inherited a lot, like, the entire Old Testament from Judaism, like, why? Do they talk about why there was a motivation to like?
So they think it was because a couple of things. One, maybe there's always like the health reason. So like, I mean, I don't know why like procreating sex would be like any healthier or like prevent you from getting like syphilis or whatever, but well,
because right, they also banned period sex.
Yeah, and
that's totally, and it's, yeah, were they just squeamish?
Well, I think that's, you know, you can, because there's more like fluids, right? And with anal, or with things that are like more rough, you can get more like tears, and so like there's more probability for STDs. Right.
I suppose. I don't buy that.
That's one theory. I'm just saying. That's always like a theory that, you know.
I wonder if part of it is they wanted to just rule out sex that wasn't for procreation.
That's exactly what I said, non-procreating sex.
Yeah, well, you said it was like more dangerous. But that would explain why you can't have like period sex too. Where they're like, no, because they're like,
yeah, oh no,
because it's wasted, because like you're not going to have
true.
a pregnancy
Actually,
from it.
There's a passage in the Torah that says that like if a woman, there's all these like little rules and stuff, and it's like if you're a woman, like if you finish but then like you realize that like the woman has just started her period, you have to like stop everything you're doing and like pray for forgiveness, like even if you're in, like it's very like specific. It's like you have to stop and then like pray that you'll be forgiven.
Yeah. No, there are some like cultures around the world where even today it's like women have to like go into isolation, like their period. Yeah,
that's why a lot of like very Hasidic, I guess, Jewish women, they wear wigs, because you have to go through the ceremony where you submerge yourself in water and everything has to be like covered, like sink, and it's just so much, your hair will keep floating up to the top.
It's not, you just wear a bathing cap. Man.
Yeah, but that you have to be totally naked. It's like, yeah,
right,
it's very specifically to shave their head.
Yeah, so for whatever reasons, even we can't really fathom necessarily, and they probably wrote it down somewhere. Suddenly in around like 400 to 600 CE, there's a bunch of bigotry.
Yes. And this, as it's like, it follows the theme of like so like if you haven't listened to our other podcasts, you should go listen to them. And there's like this very common theme
Of Christianity ruins everything.
That we discovered. Christianity, like whenever there's like art or something cool and then it like takes a moment, it takes like a little break, it's always because of like Christianity. And then like when it pops off again, it's always because of the Victorians. Like that's pretty much, you know.
The Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Basically happened.
So yeah, in 600 CE, I just laughed, Justinian code. It's like some dude named Justin who's like, yeah, that's my code. That code punishes like homosexuality by death. And then with the rise of like Gregorian, the Gregorian rise, I guess you could call it.
The monks?
These are
when the monks come about?
it's kind of all around the same time. I'm looking at my own notes.
Can
by
I go?
The way.
Can we rewind before we get too far forward? I think we skipped Sappho of Lesbos.
Oh yeah.
So the original like lesbian authoress, probably the oldest known gay writer, like openly gay writer, right?
Gay rights.
Gay rights. Yeah. Can you fill us in on that? Did your research cover it?
I think you know more about Sappho than I do. You should talk about it.
I don't know much. Just that, it was a woman who lived on the Isle of Lesbos and wrote love poems about women, which were like preserved and discovered on, I don't know, tablets or like paper. And so that's where the term lesbian comes from. And I think Sappho was on Lesbos is like an island in the Mediterranean.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's like probably close to, Italy in the Mediterranean, or like near between Greece and Italy or something. And then I don't know when she wrote. I don't know if it was like ancient Greece or if this was just like early like Roman Empire times.
I do know that she.
Yeah, 600 BC. It looks like.
The poetess.
So that's like Golden Age, like Athenian Greece. Around them.
Yeah, we did talk about her in our Cunning Linguist episode, which is like I think our most popular one. So you can go listen to that to learn more about Sappho.
Yeah, regarded as one of the greatest lyric poets. So go read some Sappho in celebration of Gay Pride.
She also she did have a lyre she played on the harp too.
Okay.
But she has these like fragmented poems. There's like these little fragments, and I just remember one was like "You Burn Me." Like people found like these little boops of like poetry.
Oh, she was like an Instagram poet.
Yeah. And then there was like a picture of like a flame or
just
a
her
sunset.
taking a picture of her holding up a little index card. Yeah.
The edges. It was a little burnt piece of paper, and it said "You burn me." So if you read her fragments, they're really cute. You should go read them.
Nice.
But yeah, she there were tons, like if you want to talk about there's a lot of like ancient rulers too that were gay.
Like
Julius Caesar. It's actually really crazy. Julius Caesar.
What do you think? I didn't know about Julius Caesar.
Yeah, Julius Caesar was like hella gay.
Really?
Yes, and he also had which I learned, he had an affair.
Didn't he marry his like? I thought he like married Brutus's mother or something. Like that was their relation or something.
Julius Caesar.
Maybe both.
And I think he had like an affair with Octavius, who was kind of like his like younger rival. It was like a secret affair.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because Octavius eventually like followed him.
Yep.
But and then Alexander of Macedonia.
Yep.
My namesake, Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
They're pretty certain because.
Oh no, they're like very certain.
Yeah. So the circumstances with Alexander the Great, right, or Alexander of Macedonia. So, this is I guess like post-Roman Empire,
whatever,
or maybe a little like pre-Roman Empire.
Who cares about specific?
But anyway, who conquered like the known world at the time. But his like trusted advisor, I forget his name. His trusted advisor though died like in a battle, and Alexander mourned him for I think 3 weeks. Like wouldn't eat or leave his room.
His room.
And just,
slams his. He's like, I don't.
They brought a room. They brought a house with them. Yeah.
I don't feel like coming
and just cried
to dinner.
and was inconsolable, and then died not that much later.
Yeah, and there were a lot of in like ancient Chinese culture, there was a lot of like thruples, and there were many cases of people adopting the third person. We talked about this with like Chang Shi.
Yeah, the pirate.
Yeah.
The pirate
The
queen.
pirate empress.
And
She was an empress.
Okay.
Excuse me.
She and her husband adopted
Their thrup.
their third.
Instead of a pup, he was their thrup. They adopted him. Yeah. And people were like, oh no, they were like having sex with their son. And it's like, no, this happened before. Like they just, they wanted to keep him in the family.
They were having sex with a third and, had to adopt him. So it was,
So they could have him,
he could inherit their stuff.
That he could, and so he could live with them.
If they died in a pirate battle.
Which I think is really cute.
Okay, so we'll skip over the Dark Ages.
Yeah, so so I was gonna say like around the Gregorian times, I guess, they started categorizing things as natural and unnatural acts, and that's really where like all the heresy and the witch trials and the like that all started, because they'd be like, oh yeah, that's not natural, that is natural. Like, so this is like, because before it was just like, okay, sodomy or like cross-dressing, and then the whole like natural and unnatural acts, it allowed them to like add a lot more stuff to that list. People that, for an example of like the first example of like a cross-dresser tried for heresy was Joan of Arc.
Oh.
Yeah. That comes to mind under this. So it also has like ties with the witch hunting.
Didn't like her as a rabble rouser. I didn't know it was because she wore like armor or like men's clothing.
That was a big thing, and then so the reason why they like they got away with like sentencing her to death, or like the trial, because a lot of people were like for her, but they in jail they took away. Like, they had her wear, like, a dress and all this stuff for her trial. But then I think they were like, okay, we want to, like, fuck her over. So they cut her hair and they took away her dress. And she's like, I need my dress. Like, I need it, because she knew she was going to get in trouble. And so one of the charges, like, I guess they had to have a certain amount of charges for her. So one of them was, like, cross-dressing. And it was because they took away all of her female clothes and they cut all her hair off.
Oh, they made her cross-dress.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not... She didn't choose to.
No, but I mean, like, this is like a example of a cross-dresser that everyone knew, like someone who was tried for that.
Okay.
That's fun. And like, I should have phrased it as fun fact, Joan of Arc, like one of the reasons they were able to sentence her.
She's not a transgender icon or anything.
She's an icon, okay? I think she's iconic. Right. But yeah, fun fact, one of the heresy things.
To where it actually gets interesting, though.
That is very interesting. Everyone is like, oh, they think, people don't know, like, what they tried her on, and that was one of the
there's always
the major sticking points.
There's always made up charges.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. So then the Napoleonic Code actually decriminalized sodomy.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Napoleon.
Right? I know.
No way.
Yeah, it did.
The first rollback of like homophobic like laws.
Yeah.
Was by the Napoleonic Code.
Isn't that cool?
I know it did. Yeah, because I know it all for like its reforms of like it removed a lot of the favoritism of like in like government or whatever, and made things a lot more fair for like distribution of like wealth for like the peasants and stuff.
Yeah.
I did not know it also had like civil rights included in it.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go.
All right.
And then in the 18th century, the upper class, kind of like the cultures of like dandyism and stuff like that, like they were able to experiment with homosexuality and like have a gay old time. And like the lower class, there were more restrictions placed on them. But yeah, if you had like a big house and stuff like that, you could have really fancy parties and fancy sex and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we saw this as like a recurring theme, particularly like in the Victorian era or like in the history of like British like gay rights, is that having privilege helps a lot. If you have money, then you can be eccentric. And if you don't, there's like way less stories of like working class people. Like you're much more trapped by like expectations.
Yeah,
of
they're
society.
like, why are you wearing that beautiful like blouse or whatever? Like, you work in a factory.
But there were they're right in this is, I guess, what, like late 1700s, early 1800s was when you had, I guess, this is like pre or early Victorian, right?
Yeah.
You had like the Molly houses.
Yes,
and
the
you
Molly
started
houses.
having gay meeting places, and like the basically development of like secret gay culture. And to be clear, like this is just documented that like we know about secret gay culture. Probably every culture or society dating back to prehistory had a secret gay culture, but it wasn't recorded or written down in most cases because a lot of people like couldn't even read and write necessarily. But yeah, we know of, at least within like in London and in the UK, and in Europe, Molly houses were secret gay bars or like gay clubs.
Yeah, and this is where Polari,
which is like sort of gay Cockney rhyming slang.
Yes.
It's gay code.
Well, it's gay. It's
developed.
Yeah, it's a combination of like Cockney rhyming slang, like criminal and drug, kind of like, I think of like Nadstat from Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah, there's some Italian in it.
Yeah. And yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about Polari, and we have like a Polari pop quiz later.
Well, I'm peeking at your notes, and I am seeing that in the 1500s there was a little bit of a roller coaster because King Henry VIII passed the Buggery Act.
Which I love. I mean, I know it's like bad, but I love it.
Yeah, making anal sex and zoophilia punishable by death.
Oh yeah, they thought of it as like the same thing, which is like how.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys.
But then Mary Tudor, when she ascended the throne, rolled back all of the laws established by Henry VIII. So there was about 10 years of like good times, and then Elizabeth I reinstated the old laws, including the Buggery Act. So there was like a 10-year little let up in the mid 1500s, and then it went back to being punishable by death.
Oh yeah, another famous gay, Michelangelo. Wrote over 300 love poems dedicated to Tommaso de Calaveri.
Was that his model?
Yep.
I think I've read that. He had a relationship with his model.
I mean, who wouldn't? Come on.
Yeah, you're a sculptor.
I want to see a movie about that. Who would play? Oh my God, who would play him? Matteo Lane would be the model.
Would be the model. No, you need someone very young, I suppose.
No.
Right. You need the model was probably like 17 or something.
Matteo Lane.
Matteo Lane could play Michelangelo.
Okay. Oh, because he's a great artist. That's true. Yeah.
He's a great artist.
Matteo, if you're out there.
Yeah, I don't know who the current young hottie is.
Who's what is it, like Gabriel? Who's the guy in like the Motorcycle Diary movie thing?
Well, he's like in his 30s now.
Right, but who's like the new him?
I don't know.
Pop off in the comments. Do you have any comments?
Pop off in the comments. We don't watch enough.
Robin, what's up?
We don't watch enough teen like romantic comedies to know who the current like young starlets are.
Valentina.
Okay. Our listener Kitschy was chiming in on the Twitch and said that she was born in '69.
Oh, cute.
So how about that?
Oh,
I missed that.
That's gay rights.
Gay rights.
Right there.
Okay, so we're talking now about like sort of during the Victorian era, gay culture gets like it's still like outlawed, but then like it does develop these like secret societies, and the what I thought was real funny is that they had their own rituals and stuff, some of which basically just make fun of straight society. So they had like a birthing ritual.
Oh, that's right, where they gave birth to a wooden spoon.
Give birth to a wooden spoon.
In the Molly house. This is in the Molly house.
They had like their own fake, or because you couldn't, like, gay marriage wasn't legal, but they had their own like secret gay marriage ritual, which I believe like involved throwing gin in each other's faces. Yes. Which is great.
Oh my gosh, Molly House. That's like if we ever need a name for like a second secret loft.
That'd be a cool name.
Like the Molly House.
And you had names. Like you would come up with more or less a drag name.
Yeah.
For the Molly House. So that's where like some, I guess, famous, like now historical, like known like pseudonyms would come from, like if an author
or like in the house, like the house
or
of
artist was in a Molly house, you'd have
there's
a pseudonym.
Like the House of LaBeija and the House of the drag houses really were kind of modeled and they didn't actually come like that much further in the future, like from here. This whole idea of like choosing your own family, it started in like the late 1800s with the first balls were in the late 1800s.
Oh. The first female impersonator balls. Yeah,
they had I think they were called, God, I want to like double check this, but I feel like they were called like the fag ball or something.
I think quite possibly like the term was already reclaimed, like.
But it was like endear. It was like an endear. They were like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Like, and I think they were in Harlem. I'm pretty sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then we should now, since we're talking about the Victorians, we should talk about Oscar Wilde. So, very famous wit and gay Victorian writer.
Very hot.
Very hot.
If you look at all the pictures of him, they're just like very sexy in like a confident, fashionable way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the like mid 1800s, this new like slate of laws was passed. So where like acceptance of I guess like gay culture, it had become more tolerated, where the laws weren't as enforced as much, and then Parliament passed these new, much more restrictive laws, and they made it much easier to accuse people of like gay behavior, and it was no longer punishable by death, but it could be punished by like prison and hard labor. And hard labor at the time was more or less a death sentence because they'll work you to death.
And because
so
it's just like so degrading too.
Yeah, so it destroyed you professionally too.
Yeah.
So it was known as it was kind of the Lavender Scare, which we'll talk about. Happened in the 1900s.
That came way later.
I'm saying it was like that, but it was 100 years earlier.
Okay.
And it was also known as, what was it? It was like the blackmailers, like charter is what they called those laws, because what it did is enabled people who wanted to blackmail people who were like known or suspected of being gay. Because it was so easy to then like be investigated and have your life ruined. So this happened to Oscar Wilde. He got into, I think you know the full details of it, right? He got into a dispute over.
No, he was having, first of all, he was married and he had children too.
Yeah.
And a lot of, that was like the norm. It was the norm to just kind of like, he was a gourmand or like a hedonist. Sorry.
Oh, he was a hedonist.
It was like, wait, gourmand isn't quite. Yeah, he was a hedonist. He loved like, he was kind of reminds me of like Janis Joplin in that like, she was like, I'm just going to wear like velvet and like clothes that feel good to me and like look expensive and like extravagant.
He's
and
like hedonism bot.
And like lay on a couch, like a small couch.
Feed me grapes. And
exactly.
Pour wine across my stomach.
Yeah. Okay. So pour wine across my stomach.
It feels good.
Exactly, because it feels good, and like, and so that's like what he was into, and he would also write. He would write these like love, sex like poems and letters to. gosh, I can't remember his name, but like to this guy, right?
It was kind of like the ancient. It was like a protege of his, I think, right? Who, like, he was having an affair with.
Yeah, and they would write these like letters, and then Oscar Wilde lent his jacket to someone, and they were like, "What's this in the pocket?" And it was like one of the letters, and Oscar Wilde was like, "Well, we're just poets, and that's like just how we talk to each other, so it's like nothing to be concerned of."
It's like someone going through your phone. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I was like, always check your damn pockets.
Yeah, delete your internet history. Come on.
Yeah, put the private browser.
Private browsing mode.
But this guy's father was an asshole, and also like he wrote like the code for like boxing laws or something like that. Okay. And so he was like, I'm gonna get his ass in court, and Oscar Wilde was like, fuck you, like I don't care. And yeah, they basically tried him. It was cool though, because Oscar Wilde's attorney, he got the court to have a recess for like a day or two, and a lot of people think that was his way of like being like, hey, Oscar, go to Paris and like.
Oh yeah.
He didn't go.
Basically get him to escape, and Oscar Wilde was so proud, I suppose, or just man of principles, that he stuck around, took the punishment, which we'll talk about. A century later, Alan Turing, similar thing happened.
Well, Oscar Wilde didn't get it quite as bad, but he kind of did, because like all his plays and his works, and he was like just blowing up, and like all his work was
his reputation was ruined. No one was going to hire him or produce any of his plays or publish any of his books from then on. Yeah, and he was sentenced to 2 years hard labor.
And then he got out of that. He died later, and I think he
got like really sick while like in prison. When he came back, he was just in bad health, and then died within a year.
Last words were like either I go, either the drapes go or I do. Yeah. Which is like,
oh, it's so good.
The first tongue pop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a sad, I suppose, story of Oscar Wilde.
But it's go read The Importance of Being Earnest. It is like the best, like shadiest play ever. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean the amount, as we'll talk about with Alan Turing, that like society has like shot itself in the foot or hurt itself by like excluding the talents of gay people is kind of a recurring theme here. So yeah, that's kind of like I don't know, the UK we're up to around like the late 1800s, well, I suppose.
Now for like the first time, I mean, it's like a good and a bad thing, I guess. It's like evolution, but like, homosexuality is sort of condemned or not condemned through the eyes of like mental health as opposed to religion. Okay. Because there's like phases. There's like the political times, which have been like the political like persecution of it, that's like the Lavender Scare, right? And there's also like the religious persecution, which like that's the big chunk of it.
All of history.
But now for the first time ever, like people are like, oh, is this like something that you're born with? Is this like a disorder? Like, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, spoiler alert is like categorizing homosexuality as a mental illness did nothing to make anyone better or happier. Yeah. But it at least was at least acknowledged the humanity of people, I suppose, who were homosexual. And didn't call them evil, but it called them sick. So, yeah, a whole other series of problems.
Yeah, so like in the late 1800s, like Alfred Kinsey is born.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the Kinsey scale.
Oh yeah, the Kinsey scale. Well, yeah, the Kinsey scale doesn't come out till like later because he's born in the late 1800s. But the Kinsey scale it's a gradient of sexuality, basically. So like 0. Ooh. There's a drag race outside. Drag race.
Yes. That'd be great. Yeah, the four-wheelers that terrorize New York.
Yeah.
Like,
may
you
the best
boys
drag
racing around.
Yeah, may the best. What are they called? The cars?
The four-wheelers? That's what those are, like four-wheelers and mopeds.
Okay, so the Kinsey scale is a gradient of sexuality. So 0 is exclusively heterosexual.
It goes 0 to 6.
Yeah. 1 is predominantly heterosexual, only incidentally homosexual.
You brushed against a penis.
Yeah, I remember the Dan Savage, Savage Love. People would write in and they'd be like, I accidentally, like, you know, devoured an entire penis last night. Like, what does it mean? And he'd be like, I get so many of these things that are like, oh no, like there happened to be this and then I happened to be that.
So how would he take it? Would he be like, oh, you're a 2 on the Kinsey scale. You're like mostly heterosexual, but more than incidentally homosexual.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I think, because Kinsey, he went around and he talked to people. Because a lot of the data about, like, homosexuality was very, like, forced and, like...
It's like, to touch a penis is mere happenstance.
Yeah.
But to devour one, honey, that's intentional.
It's intentional, yeah. I think this is from the importance of being earnest.
Yes, that's from the importance of being earnest about losing one parent versus
penis,
two.
Mr. Worthington? Yeah, so it's basically like, okay, so like 3 is basically like what you would call bisexual, like equally heterosexual and homosexual.
Yeah.
And then
goes up to
6 is exclusively homosexual, and then X is no socio-sexual contacts or relations, which would be like asexual, I guess. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 is Maran Kagani, the comedian, who famously has never touched a vagina. He was born via cesarean section.
Oh, a gold star gay.
A gold star gay. Born via cesarean section.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because Julius Caesar, also a gold star gay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, actually, he was kind of more of a 3. But he was, he started out, he could have been.
Could have been a gold star gay. Yeah.
He wanted to.
But just by. Okay, so Kinsey developed the scale. That's all we really needed to know. It's like a useful tool to, I don't know, and you can take like a quiz probably in the back of like Vanity Fair, and it will tell you how gay you are on the Kinsey scale. Yeah,
but I mean, it's cool that he was like hella persecuted for this because this was like pretty like he really like talked to people. The idea that like a man with like a nuclear family could be, you know, a 3. He was going out and like getting the information. It was totally
scandalous. And he was like, oh yeah, human sexuality is a gradient. I don't know why anybody would say it's abnormal or like a sickness to be on one end or the other. It's just a scale.
And people were like, oh my God. And those people who were like really freaked out about it, they were probably the gayest of them all.
On the Kinsey scale?
Yeah.
Oh, you a 7.
You a 7, yeah. Yeah.
If that's not some drag queen's like lyric for their rap, like on RuPaul's Drag Race or something, like Kinsey scale, I scored an 800.
Welcome to the stage, Kinsey.
Kinsey scale.
Kinsey scale.
Yeah, that's what you say. I'm a perfect 10 on the Kinsey scale. That's
Todrick.
You can have that. Todrick Hall, you can use that one.
Yeah, we're waiting for your next album.
Please call us. So, let's, it's not like early 1900s. Were the Roaring 20s any better?
Yes, the Roaring 20s were, like, great because the jazz age, Billie Holiday, was, like, a famous bisexual. A lot of jazz age, like, people were, like, smoking weed and, like, wearing diamonds and, like, you know.
Were there any, like, openly gay performers at that time, though? I don't think so, right?
No, but it was just, like, a gay time. Like, because there was just all this, like, opulent. I don't know. There were, like, flappers, and they were kind of, like, mask, like.
Yeah, or if anything, if they were the equivalent of, like, right, the dandies during the Victorian era.
They were, like, the counter.
yeah, men who were like very into fashion and style.
Yeah, and flappers were like kind of more butch women, which I know people look at it and they always you always dress up for those parties with like you're like I'm a sexy like 20s lady. Well, I have news for you. You're dressing up as like the butchest of the 20s ladies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they were wearing not, yeah, you know, giant like, you know, petticoats and stuff.
Yeah,
and
they
skirts.
cut their hair.
It was actually more form fitting at the time.
They were like
And
hiding their curves.
wearing low heels, wearing like baggy sweaters. Yeah, cut their hair.
Yeah. So and then the 30s, not so good of a time.
Yeah, so this came up in like some of the podcasts we listened to as like reference, like researching this episode, is that it's never been a long like forward progressive arc of it gets better. It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, a real
As we
like
said, there were
real roller coaster.
10 years in the late 1500s where it wasn't penalized to be gay and like
penalized. It wasn't penalized
in Britain, and then like and then the death penalty was reimposed like throughout. So yeah, it's been kind of this like backwards forwards, right? In like early Victorian era, it was like more okay, and then the Blackmailers Charter, like those laws were passed, and then fucking Oscar Wilde is sentenced to more or less a death sentence in prison for it.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes and goes. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of history is long.
And hard.
He said it bends towards justice, but it's got some curves. I'll tell you something that's long and bends.
Yep.
So when is the next like I think high point? Is it really then in the 60s?
I mean, we should talk about Hollywood a little bit. Just a little bit. You want to talk? Yeah.
Like McCarthyism? Or
this is actually probably the most interesting thing. Like the thing that I was like, what?
What's
the
that?
coding, the like Herschel. What is it? The Herschel code. The Oh, do you want to talk about Turing for a second? While I talk about the coding.
Oh, sure.
You can
That's
talk
true.
about one kind of coding, and I want to make sure I
Turing
get
is
his name.
yeah. So Turing is this is now like it's pre like the real start of the modern gay liberation movement, right? Which is in the late 60s. So we'll talk about Alan Turing, who has been voted the greatest Briton of the 20th century. So like a true genius. So you might have seen like The Imitation Game, or I forget the other film that came out about Alan Turing's life recently in the last like 5 years or so. But Alan Turing was a British mathematician, and he died at 41. So he was like very young when he achieved all these like really great breakthroughs. So he's the father of like theoretical computing, it's called. And like his work underpins a lot of artificial intelligence. So your Siri or a lot of the cool stuff Google does is based on like Alan Turing's initial theories that he developed. He got his PhD at 26, and was just a brilliant mathematician, and then really rose to prominence because in World War II, he was on the Enigma project, which was the Allies' code-breaking project. And so he worked at, it's called Bletchley Park, is where a lot of the code-breaking intelligence was all situated in this very kind of idyllic, like scenic South London estate, where they put all the kind of intelligence. And so Hut number 8, it was called, probably like a Quonset hut, probably looked like Secret Loft. He was working there, and it was kind of one of the first like applications of electronics and engineering to create a computational device, and they broke the German code that the Germans were using. So kind of throughout the Battle of the Atlantic was the naval battle that went from 39 to 46. Like throughout the course of the war, the Allies were at war in the Atlantic with the Germans and just constantly fucking winning because they knew exactly where the German ships were going to go and where the submarines were and everything.
Because of Turing.
Yeah, so they would intercept these radio communications that were like encrypted, and the Germans had their own machine. I don't want to make, all right, not to get too off.
Talk about Turing.
Sorry. Turing figured all this out. Brilliant. Turing was...
And then how did they figure out that Turing...
Well, he knew he was gay and was conflicted about his sexuality throughout his life, because also it was also like, I think, traditional like Protestant upbringing. But then, Turing actually proposed to a woman that he worked with at Bletchley Park, and they were engaged for like 2 months, and then he told her that he was gay, and they called off the engagement. And then Turing was discovered because he would routinely go to like on holiday in like Eastern European countries, like in the Baltic, and go on like a cool gay holiday. And then he at some point was hooking up with a 19-year-old when he was 39, and the 19-year-old's friends robbed his house. So I don't think Turing reported it, but it got reported to the police. The police investigated, and Turing was like, "Oh, yeah, it was probably my lover." That like his friends like revealed it, and so then he was tried, and the punishment even, and this is like he's like the most valuable asset to the UK. He just helped them win World War II.
Yeah.
They think he might have saved 14 million lives.
He already won, so they're like, they're like, we're just gonna take your code.
This is now the late 40s, so he still was involved in all sorts of top secret work and was one of the smartest people alive at that point. So the sentence was he pled guilty at the advice of his lawyer and his brother, and then was like, he had to agree to either being imprisoned or chemical castration.
What is chemical castration?
And chemical castration generally just refers to if you're forced to take hormones or some other drug that basically like will like sterilize you or like cancel your libido. And in his case, they gave him basically a bunch of like female hormones, like pretty much the equivalent of estrogen. So he actually developed breasts.
That sucks.
So that it's interesting because he, supposedly.
I mean, like for him, like
as recorded. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it doesn't suck and it's total bullshit that you would get punished for that and have to like take drugs, but he supposedly took it with good humor and was fine with it. And he was like, "This will be an interesting year," and didn't mind so much. And then he was like, the punishment was just a year, and that was it. And then it was over. And then a year later, he was found dead.
Yes, I know why.
It's up for debate. He died of cyanide poisoning.
Yes, is that what the apple and the Apple computer with the bite is? Because he dipped an apple in cyanide and he took a bite out of it.
So some people think that, but that's a very dramatic interpretation for a guy who I'm pretty sure was like probably brilliant and like had Asperger's and was like, I don't know. I know engineers.
Wait, no, that's how he did it though.
No, they found a half-eaten apple.
Oh.
He died in bed. They found a half-eaten apple, but he was in the habit of regularly taking an apple and eating it before bed.
Oh. So they think that he was poisoned.
No, the theory is that it was accidental. So he had his own little chemistry lab in his house that didn't really have proper ventilation or anything. And this is a common thing when you want to gold plate stuff, which you do for electronics often.
Okay.
You use a cyanide solution. Yeah. So he might have cyanide poisoned himself.
Well, I like to think that he was like, I'm like Snow White.
So his was just... Somebody said that, but I think that's actually like a very romantic interpretation.
I like that though.
Not to get bogged down in the details of Alan Turing's possible suicide.
But if he did commit suicide, so like if you're on hormones,
he'd been off them for a year.
Okay, can you if you're on a heavy dose of either male or it's steroids, basically a synthetic hormone, right? Your body will start to produce like let's say you're on estrogen, right? Mm-hmm. Your body's going to start to produce a ton of testosterone to try and level them out. And then if you all of a sudden go off of the thing that you're on, you go off of the estrogen, your body's still going to have a ton of testosterone and not that much estrogen. And that can cause people to be very depressed. Which is, this is more seen with people who take a lot of testosterone and then suddenly stop taking it. You have to take estrogen suppressing drugs.
Okay. He wasn't exhibiting signs of depression.
Okay.
He died. There was a to-do list that he had out for that weekend.
Yeah.
So people were very surprised and were like skeptical that it actually
there was
was
a to-do list.
Yeah, he was like, then tomorrow I'm gonna like had a grocery list and no one felt
like,
that he seemed depressed or anything.
He's like, buy another apple because I'm gonna eat one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this coding, I found the thing.
The motion picture production code.
Yes, so the Hays code. I wanted to get the name right because I know that people will like be pissed if I don't. Okay, this was like the most interesting thing that I did not know about like at all.
Okay.
That I found out about. So there's the Hays code. Basically said like what you could and couldn't do in motion pictures, and this code was like crazy. It was really, really
it was strict.
It was really strict, and this is why there were so many westerns. This is the reason why. This is just a little sub-tangent, but then we're going to get into like gay coding in the films.
Because westerns weren't seen as gay?
No, because one of the things in the Hays Code was like you couldn't have, if you shot a present film, like a present day film, you couldn't have like conflict or overthrowing in it. You couldn't have like people fighting and like good guys and bad guys. So
how did all the film noirs get shot?
There were like ways around it. Like but like that's why so many people did westerns, because they wanted to have like fights and conflict and like.
So you had to set it in a historical period.
Yes, isn't that fascinating?
And at the time, like, yeah, that was a good canvas for it.
Okay. Yeah. So you couldn't have. So before the Hays Code, there were gay people like in films and like. You know,
this explains Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah. But after the Hays, you couldn't say that someone was gay. But like there were certain nods and it was almost like a film version of like Polari. It was like a physical like manifestation of like gay coding. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, instead of like characters like making out, like same-sex characters or whatever, they would share like a cigarette, and that was like code for like they were gay. Or that's why so many of those old films are like so campy. There's a reason. I mean, they were really like going as far as they could without like violating the code. The problem is that like, you know, I guess a lot of people. You know how like all the Disney like villains, they're pretty much gay, and yes. People are like, some people love that and some people are like mad about that. That's kind of like Hays Code-esque, that like, you know, a lot of the.
I've always thought it was just because they're very campy. They made their villains campy so that kids could see a villain without being, you know, scared. If you're
under the Hays Code, like a lot of the.
That's really a throwback to cinema. Yeah,
I mean, because that's like when Disney was making his stuff too. So like, yeah, it was like if you had a woman who wasn't married, she was like the bad person, or if you had like, you had like a very queenie guy, he had to be killed, or that had to be like the thing that he hated the most. So like Scar. He's like very serious, but he's literally like, "Oh, I can't be bothered."
He's very dramatic prima donna, yes.
Yeah, he has like nails too. Have you know? Like, yeah, I was watching like a compilation of like the gayest moments in Disney, and like Scar is just like, he's just like twirling his like his beautifully manicured like claw around, and he's like, "Oh, put him over there," you know.
Yeah, and Jafar.
Oh yeah, Jafar is
very campy. Okay.
Oh yeah, here's the do's, don'ts, and be carefuls.
Yeah, so the Hays Code is very, very restrictive in what you could put into films.
Yeah, they're very, very, and it lasted for like a really long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
We got the restrictions down.
And that's why there's a lot of famous gays in like old Hollywood.
But when did things get better?
When do you think they got better?
Well, so the catalyst for a lot of it, and the reason we're celebrating Gay Pride this weekend, is the Stonewall Riot. So now we can actually get into depth on the Stonewall Riot.
Yay! Isn't the Stonewall Riot a myth? And dude, so many youths are getting mad about it, which I think is so funny.
What?
There are so many like 15-year-old children on YouTube that are like, Stonewall it's not the reason. And I wish people would stop, like, there's issues now. No, I know. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Stonewall kicked it off, and then the Gay Liberation March started the next year and evolved into Pride.
I know this. I mean, even though I am one of those, I am a 15-year-old youth, I know better.
You need to get on TikTok and set them straight, because the kids have it wrong. The
children need to be edumated.
Stonewall, it's worth, I mean, first bringing up it's like the late 60s. It's the summer of 69.
The sexiest
And
summer.
throughout the 60s, until 66, and keep in mind the civil rights movement is happening at the same time too. Until 66, a gathering of gays was immediately reported as disorderly conduct, and the state liquor authority would not issue liquor licenses to gay bars.
Yeah, so the Stonewall Inn was...
boo for State Liquor Authority of New York.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Stonewall Inn was run by the mafia.
Yeah, so a lot of gay bars would be, they didn't have a liquor license, were run by the mafia, and then had were doing payoffs to the cops to stay open, and then sometimes for show the cops would raid it.
Yeah, and there's like the Stonewall Inn, and then Duplex, which is like right around the corner from the Stonewall Inn, and they would like take turns tattling on each other, right?
But even until, so in 66, basically, there actually was, prior to Stonewall, there were groups of, there were like civil rights groups of like gays, and there actually were the equivalent of like, right, sit-ins in the South happened for the civil rights movement. Gays would do sit-ins at bars in the 60s before Stonewall, like where a bunch of gays would go to a bar, tell the bartender and everyone else that they were gay, and like demand to be served. And then
that's so odd. I was gonna be like, cute.
So, well, they would, in a lot of cases, would get thrown out of the bar, and then they would sue, which is and they.
That's so.
And granted, this
smart.
isn't in the South where everyone's a fucking bigot. This is in like New York City, and they won several of the suits. And I guess at the time there was the Human Rights Commission was like some working group of Congress or something. They ruled in favor of the gays, so it was no longer like you had to serve people who were openly gay at bars by that point. But the state liquor authority, much more conservative, would not give a liquor license to Stonewall or other places. So the cops on Tuesday of this week of Pride or whatever, the cops raided Stonewall and like seized a bunch of their booze, and then planned to raid it again that Friday with the hopes of getting shutting the bar down entirely by like hitting them twice in a row. And so the police showed up that Friday, June 28th, and raided Stonewall. Cross-dressing was also illegal at the time.
Oh yeah, there's like, if you didn't have a certain amount of like articles of like clothing that was associated with your gender on, they would like arrest you.
They called it masquerading as a female, and it was illegal. Yeah. So famously Martha P. Johnson, a transgender woman, was like one of the people arrested. So the police basically rounded up staff and like a handful of like transgender people during this like raid on this Friday, but a huge crowd gathered, and so the paddy wagons left with like the people they had arrested, and then the mob basically like got ugly and started throwing bottles at the cops. The police retreated inside the Stonewall Inn and barricaded themselves inside the bar. And then the crowd broke into the bar. So Stonewall Inn got totally trashed during this like first night. But then over the next week, like thousands of people would gather at Stonewall in like sort of support of the bar. And then the police would show up and tear gas them and beat them up. And it was like kind of your standard civil rights demonstration that lasted about a week. One of the corollaries to this, which is funny, is that the press covered it really negatively. So the Village Voice was like faggotry in the West Village or something, and the gays like surrounded their offices.
Yes.
And like broke in and threatened to burn the building down.
They were like, we had this journalist. His name is Michael Musto.
Yeah. So the Village Voice
you will take him, and he
did
will
not cover well.
Yeah.
There is the funny story that I guess the second and third nights, like the riot police showed up. But the crowd all knew the village really well, which has these short little triangular blocks. So the riot police would like start heading down the street, and the crowd would run away from them and just circle the block and then come up behind the riot police and throw bottles at them.
And it lasted for like 6 nights too.
Yeah, it was about a week. The New York Times like basically just they did like a press blackout. They covered it in one article on like page 20.
Oh no.
And they were like, police chased away West Village youths. And like didn't acknowledge it at all. Yeah. Shameful history of like these major New York publications. And the New York Post had like some homophobic. The New York Post existed in 1969. I'm as shocked as you are. But it had some like really homophobic title or whatever. And they too, like a bunch of people showed up and like protested outside their offices. So that's kind of Stonewall, but the great thing is that Stonewall was the reason everyone says it's a catalyst is all these people suddenly realized that they weren't alone. When thousands of people show up to like support a thing, a movement stems out of that. So, that morphed into, actual gay rights organizations and
Like Star. That was a gay right, yeah.
And then starting the next year, the Gay Liberation March, which has now come to be the much more corporate version of the Pride Parade.
Okay. We need to discuss.
Which, I don't want to jump through, right? And so this is like the 60s, right? And so then so much of like the gay liberation movement then also became a support network during the AIDS crisis, like in the 70s and 80s.
In the 70s, in 1970, there's also CAMP, the Campaign Against Moral Persecution, which is formed in Australia.
That's a great name.
The Task Force on Gay Liberation was formed within the American Library Professional Organization.
Yeah.
Society 5 was formed in... there are a lot of places in Australia. Homosexuality is decriminalized in Austria and Costa Rica and Finland in like the early 70s.
Yeah, so it went worldwide.
Yeah.
But as we saw, right, it took until 2017 that like gay marriage was legalized in the United States.
Yeah, and then the American Psychiatric Association they removed because they had been they had been saying that homosexuality was a disorder, and then it wasn't, and then it wasn't, but I guess being in the wrong body for your sex or gender was. So they had all these conversion therapies. Some of them were really terrible, there's the chemical castration, but after that there was emetic therapies. So again, it's really interesting because this again reminds me of the Clockwork Orange, the therapy that they did for him. So basically they would do that, but instead of violent stuff, they would show you same-sex stuff, and then they would when the medicine that they gave you wore off,
they would try to do Pavlovian conditioning.
Yeah, they would do emetic. It's called an emetic therapy. So they'd give you Epicock or Epicac, the thing that makes you throw up, and they'd be gay porn, and then when the Epicock Ipecac that wore off, then they would show you straight porn, and they'd give you your favorite food, and they'd tell you you're beautiful.
That is exactly, I mean, you're a dog and they're doing Pavlovian conditioning on you.
So that that was definitely a thing. Oh, I mean, just before the military had a lot to do with their gay history and military history are very in bed with each other, because the military also it gathered large groups of men together I mean, they also had like the whole "Don't ask, don't tell."
That was a Clinton era policy. Yeah, that was like late 90s.
Yeah, and if you watch The Queen, which is like a documentary about drag pageants, they're like some of the first, I think it was like in the 60s, right?
Yeah,
that one.
The Queen came out in the mid 60s.
They're talking about, there's like a section in it where they talk about like being enlisted and like how some of them, they wish they could be in the military, but they can't, like they're like, I just wanted to like help my country, but I guess not. And then other ones are like, I did serve and I wish that I didn't. But also like being overseas, it kind of like gave people a perspective and like it broadened their perspective, and it led to like a lot of the change in like the movements and the gatherings and the protests of the 70s.
Oh yeah, I mean, because it was the entire time was very counterculture too. Right?
Yeah.
None of this happened in a vacuum, right? This was also, 69 was the same as the summer of Woodstock and like the electrical light acid test and all the hippies, and it was like the height of the Vietnam War and protests against that too. So, yeah, big year.
Big year, 69. And Nikichi was born too. That's very
Nikichi
important.
was born. We can talk about a couple other like trailblazers we should mention, right? So like Harvey Milk is a very famous like gay icon. So he was the first ever like openly gay elected public official. So he was a city councilman. And then in 78, he and the mayor were assassinated by like a crazed gunman who was like
Joni!
Moscone,
Oh my gosh.
Moscone,
Joni
I think,
just
was the mayor
joined
at the time.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Hi, Joni. Hi. I know this.
Hello.
We miss you too. Joni. Oh my gosh. Joni, the best aerialist, go-go
Yeah.
bartender.
So 78 also. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I like.
Talk about Harvey Milk. Yeah, 78 is when the gay pride flag made its debut. We're talking about history of the LGBT movements.
Yeah.
Which you're wearing, the rainbow.
Yes. And I know. I'm like, I love colors. I love the rainbow. I don't know. I'm like obsessed. I've been like making little rainbows out of like hot glue.
So what do we learned from
the flag, right?
yeah.
So
we learned like the flag has evolved over time, right?
yeah, I actually
The
have
pride flag.
I have the evolution of the pride flag.
So did they add colors? They took some colors out.
So
The Retro 8.
yes,
That was the original.
The
It had
Retro
hot
8
pink on it.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
so and all the colors represented something. So the Retro 8,
Yeah.
it had 8 stripes, and there was like a meaning. So hot pink was sex, red was life, orange healing, yellow sunlight, green nature, turquoise magic/art,
Okay.
indigo serenity, violet spirit. The 2 original flags were created for the 1978 parade. They were lost for 40 years, and then a remnant of one of them was rediscovered among the possessions of Gilbert Baker, who made the first.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then basically, apparently hot pink got dropped because there was so much demand for the flag after the assassination of Harvey Milk. Then like it kind of like brought pride like a renewed sense of urgency, right? People were being killed, like assassinated, public officials even, for being gay. And there was such a demand on flags that they didn't have enough hot pink fabric to make the flags with the hot
They
pink.
were like, sex is gonna have to go. Sorry.
So they just started selling it. Yeah, they had to drop the pink, and then at some point they dropped the turquoise.
Yeah.
Okay.
They dropped
Yeah.
magic and art.
Magic and art.
That's
got dropped.
gotta go too. Sorry, y'all.
I guess so. Yeah.
But then,
So now it's now the standard 6 colors, I guess.
well, but no, but
But what?
they've added
Poor turquoise and hot pink.
Yeah, they've added.
I've seen the social justice pride flag and the progress.
Right, so the Philadelphia in 2017, they added black and brown to their flag. To the standard 6 color to draw attention to issues of people of color within the LGBT community. And then there's also another version called the Progress variant, which was debuted at Euro Pride.
Intersectionality, yeah. So Progress adds some like black, brown, light blue, pink, and white.
Yes. So the white stripe represents all the colors.
Well, that's just redundant.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people do, much like your own interpretation of your sexuality, there's lots of custom pride flags.
Yeah, and there's also like a pansexual pride flag, the transgender pride flag, which if you there's like an emoji for it too. Do you ever, so if you type in your like Apple phone like gay pride, it'll show you 2 different flags.
Oh.
And one of them is the transgender flag.
Oh, okay.
Which is like it's like a baby blue and pink. It's like the color of the year from Pantone.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful blue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the evolution of the pride flag. And then yeah, I guess that brings us to the present day.
The present day? Oh yeah, so I guess we'll talk about rainbow washing real quick, and then we'll do like a little Polari.
The Polari quiz.
Yeah, the Polari quiz.
Okay. So, yeah, what's your hot take on rainbow washing?
Okay. So like rainbow washing or like corporate rainbow, right? So it's funny because it's like all the banks do it, like they're just like all neon and rainbow and stuff like that, and people get really mad because
not just the banks. There's a viral post on like Facebook or on Instagram where people are like, these like 24 companies have rainbow flag logos, but they also donate to Republican politicians who have pushed like an anti-gay agenda. So like, which is it? Like, stop donating to anti-gay causes if you're like want to use a rainbow flag for your marketing.
Okay, so I sort of see it as like, I reversed it so that because my thing that I like to do is like be controversial. Famously, no.
Yeah. What's your controversial take?
Well, I look at it as like these big companies, yeah, they're like they think that they're doing like the rainbow flag and they're gonna get like all these gay like customer. I don't know what they think they're gonna get out of it, but I see it as like, oh, they're spending money to put more rainbows like in the world out there and to like remind bigots that like they're getting like overthrown slowly.
Yeah, and I kind of supported that. I almost feel that you can be mad about rainbow washing because you're like, these corporations are fucking modern, whatever, like late stage capitalism is a cancer and is the worst thing ever for human civilization, and it has all sorts of terrible outcomes. But one funny thing about it is you can hack it as a social organization that is viral or hip or cool, which is everything that being gay is. You can hack late stage capitalism because it desperately wants to be perceived as authentic and try to get involved with movements that are like authentic, which often are very progressive.
It's the purest form of camp.
Failed
seriousness.
Failed late stage capitalism. But I almost see it as a form of you're like, sure, Capital One is just some piece of shit, like capitalist company. I feel bad for everyone who works there. It's whatever.
Yeah,
whatever service it provides, it sucks.
It makes Union Square look really gay right about now.
Yeah,
and
the irony of it is that they desperately would love to like be perceived as authentic, both by their own employees and like larger society. And so they're like trying to be real gay right now and like support the movement in a very inauthentic way that is designed to make them more money, but it's still there.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, let's say there's like a gay teen in a smaller town, and they go into Target, and there's just like, you know, rainbow clothes, and they're like pride,
Oh
like
yeah,
everywhere.
like the Pride line. Yeah,
yeah,
by Massimo. Like,
yeah.
like,
I would imagine I mean, I would imagine that's kind of like the world is getting a little more accepting. Like it's getting to be like mainstream, just the like visuals of it.
yeah, and so I think it is important and fair to hold like various like insincere capitalistic companies to account and be like, do more, actually do some actions that support like, you know, gay liberation. At the same time, like we both feel like, and we've been, you know, these like progressive movements have been saying it forever, representation matters, right? Having like people of color in like on television and movies and art, you know, gay people in television, on movies and art. As campy as it is, like Will and Grace, or like just to have you know, famous television characters. Neil Patrick Harris is like a celebrity who's openly like gay and has a family, right? Like representation matters, and it's very much it is an example of that, I think. There's a very positive thing you can take from it.
Yep. I mean, it's like you don't bank there, but like you can be like,
or do
rainbow. Yeah,
like,
whatever.
You know what? I like your decor. Do better. I'm gonna send you guys an email and ask you to like actually donate to like progressive candidates, but
you sign that like on your check. You're like, fuck you.
You can write whatever you want on a check. They'll cash it.
They'll cash it. Yeah, they'll do whatever. They'll take anything.
Your money's good here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your rainbow colored Monopoly
stuff.
money. It's good here. Yeah. So
here
it's a positive spin, I suppose, on rainbow washing.
My like little solution idea is like if you know I don't know who they is, but like whatever, you're out there.
Marketing departments of these companies.
No, like the government or something should do like a reverse rain. It should be, you know, there's like the pink tax.
Oh yeah.
But it should be like reverse rainbow tax. So like
pink reparations.
No, it should be like if you are a corporation and you buy anything like rainbow, there's going to be like an extra little like tax on it, and that's going to go to like help the gays.
Oh, and I told you there is some corporations do this, right? So it's like probably at like the Container Store right now, you can get the rainbow trash can and they'll donate.
Yeah, but I mean
10%.
the neon, like when TD Bank or whatever goes to like buy the neon, they should be taxed.
It's like, what are you using these 6 different colors?
They're like nothing.
We just have a very it's a Christian display. It's not it's just colorful. It's not a rainbow. And they're like, you're making a rainbow, aren't you?
Darlinda's like the best rainbow ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Our personality and personal style.
Yes.
Okay.
She's a human rainbow. So should we do Polari?
Positive. Yeah, we're gonna do this. So you're gonna say some Polari. And so for those who are just tuning in, recently Polari is kind of gay Cockney rhyming slang from like the late Victorian era and through like mid-1900s, mostly in the UK. Okay,
do you want to just I can. Okay, so what does Ajax mean?
Can you get how is it used?
No, just guess. You're just gonna guess.
What is Ajax?
Yeah,
Ajax is like,
be quick. Ajax, go.
Ajax is like a strong like carrot. Is it like a brawny like mask like guy?
No, it means adjacent to or nearby. It's like on Grindr. You're like Ajax, like in the area.
In your radius.
Okay, yeah, we'll go back and forth. You give me one.
I'm gonna try to blur my eyes on all the ones that I'm not looking at.
Okay, we're doing Polari.
Oh, here's an easy one.
Okay.
Buonanotte.
Good night.
Yeah, that's just so they used Italian in it.
Good morning.
What's a charver? Or two charver.
Two charver? Is it like money?
No, It's having sex.
Oh, to charver, like a verb.
You can
I thought you
charver.
were like to charver.
Oh.
Okay, I'll give you.
I'm gonna give you one more.
Okay.
That I remember, but I'm not looking. Oh, right, because currently there's like a bear and a twink and an otter, and there's all sorts of like animal representations
Giraffe?
of various like gay styles.
Giraffe.
Giraffe and tall.
Just
This
a tall guy. Reverse giraffe.
Oh, so in Polari, what is a chicken?
Is it like a twink?
I think so. It's a young man.
Yeah.
Apparently, but yeah. I
Because
think
there's
they
chicken
call
hawks. Have you heard of that? Ooh,
Oh, is that like
it's
a
like a
twink?
daddy. It's
That's
like a daddy.
a twink chaser.
Yeah. It's like a daddy. What's
It's a
what's
zaddy?
dish?
Dish. Is dish like spill the tea? Is it like gossiping?
It's a body part.
Dish. Is it your butt?
Mm-hmm.
All right. He
He
had a nice dish.
had a nice.
That one.
Ooh, what is? Blah. What is? Polari pipe. A Polari pipe. What's a Polari pipe?
I mean, Polari is this like slang. Is a
Right.
Polari pipe like a cigarette? Or
No, what would you use to spread the slang? It's not your mouth, but how would you like?
this is before they had telephones, right?
No, it is telephone. It
Oh,
is
it's
a telephone.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess this must be like kind of in the
Ooh, what's
50s, 60s. Polari pipe.
a
You call all your
vogueress?
friends.
What's a vogueress?
A vogueress?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it a drag queen?
No, it's a female something.
A female something.
Cause of what's okay? So I should be like,
So
what's a vogue?
it's not a drag queen. It's not a female impersonator.
So what's a vogue? What's vogue? A vogue?
I mean, vogue is like means fashion.
No, not in Polari. It means cigarette. And so a vogueress is a female smoker. And vogue comes from
No way.
fogus, which from the lingua franca, which the word fogus, which means fire, smoke. What is... Oh, here's one that we have. Juge, which is spelled...
Zhuzh.
Yeah.
Zhuzh it up, like style it up a bit.
Yeah.
Like make it pop. Zhuzh it up a bit.
It's from Romani. Juju, which is to clean or to make neat.
Okay.
Give me a couple. This
It's
is
a very,
fun.
Michelle Visage really likes. By the way, we should talk about
Drag Race.
Drag Race. Speaking of things
Here,
that
you
have really
can-
taken gay culture mainstream. We'll do one more round of these, okay?
Yeah, they're so fun. Look up Polari. It's because it's like a language that's not used so much anymore. And some words are going to be familiar, but some of them are like, what?
What's a dilly boy?
Prostitute?
Yes.
Damn! I'm good.
Well, you know this word. They had it. Trade.
Oh, like a sex.
Yeah.
Your
Potential
sex.
sex partner.
Yeah. Trade for me, trade.
Let's see. What is...
Oh yeah, so Drag Race. Well, because there's like the ball scene, which we talked about, like started out in like the 1800s, and then like late 1800s.
What is national handbag?
Ooh, a national handbag?
Yeah.
A vagina?
No, it's to be on welfare.
Oh,
So.
a handbag, Mr. Worthington? Yeah, and then there's iconic movies.
Wait, let me give you one
Oh,
more
okay.
because we should remember this.
Okay.
That's so funny because it has Yiddish words in it too.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a soup of like all the best words from all the best
Okay,
languages.
let me give you two more. So what is mies?
Mies?
Like the plural of mice. Mies.
Mies? It's like to sneak around? I don't know.
No, it means plain or ugly.
Yes!
You're like, look at that mies little bitch.
Look at that
over there.
mies.
Yeah, mies.
Look, wait, I'm thinking of like the you can't fuck with me if
can't
you
fuck with
wanted
mies.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, Mies is plain or ugly. So we got to keep that one. That's a great, like, little
Yeah.
throw some shade. You look at Mies.
You look
tonight.
in Mies. People are like, "Oh, thanks, I look
Like,
nice."
I look Mies?
Yeah, and you're
yeah,
like,
you look at Mies. And then, okay, last one. What is NAF?
To kiss.
No. NAF is also a -1.
Shade.
What is NAF?
Nav.
Like, oh, that... Look at those tourists. They're so NAF.
Oh, like, pedestrian?
It's ugly, dull, and hetero.
Yes! I love that. That's my new
I
favorite.
think NAF is my favorite shade word. Awful, dull, and hetero. Explicitly hetero.
Oh, I'm going to use this so much.
All right, so remember, everyone out there listening, Mies and NAF, I think those are my 2 favorite words I learned tonight.
Yes.
NAF. You're looking positively NAF. I can't wait to go to my 20-year high school reunion and tell them how NAF they're looking with their fucking families.
Nah.
Oh, wow. You're much larger than you were in high school. It's very NAF. Great.
Nah. Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah, so we should just talk about Drag Race, which is like...
Sure.
I would say, like, it's Drag Ball, modern iteration of it.
Moderation of Drag Ball reality show. Can I give you a little backstory on Drag Race that you might not know?
Okay.
Right, so you know that RuPaul, very famous New York City drag performer in the 80s, originally from the South, from like New Orleans, I think, or Miami, but very tall drag queen, famous in the 80s along with Amanda Lepore and Suzanne Barsh and all these nightlife celebrities. And then Rue and Michelle Visage were like radio personalities. And they had a New York City morning like drive time radio show. And they had like a cable television show on I forget what network. But they like both did a talk show.
Okay.
So they both would work from like, they'd wake up at 4 a.m. to get to the studio at 5 to do a radio show until like noon. And then go to the TV studio and then record their afternoon TV show for like 4 hours. And this was like for like 4 or 5 years. And so I think they got total burnout from that. And then RuPaul kind of like retired and mostly like had semi-disappeared from the public. And Ru, also a famous musician, recording artist, had put out a number of albums, right, including like CoverGirl.
Honey, one of us is a musician and one of us is a recording artist.
But
Rose.
in the starting like really in the 2000s, RuPaul like was not doing a lot and had semi-retired. Had written books, had spoken like internationally, performed internationally, but had really burned out from all the like public work, like running a TV and radio show at the same time. And then Rue's career like had basically Drag Race is all a second act for Rue. And right at that time, Rue was already in like her 50s, right?
Yeah.
In the 2010s, because Rue is now like 7 years old or something insane. It doesn't even make sense how old RuPaul is. So, yeah, what brought it back is that I guess it was like Logo and some producer who's a huge fan of RuPaul like wanted RuPaul to produce like some TV show. And this is like, sorry, this was all building to like this very funny anecdote where they came to RuPaul and they were like, we want to produce a TV show. Like, here's some ideas, like this and that. And RuPaul was like, oh, I'm like open for a lot of ideas. This sounds very cool. I will not do a drag like reality contest show. I refuse. And so then spent the next 2 weeks trying different ideas for like maybe like a Queer Eye like makeover show, maybe like some home improvement show, maybe I don't know, whatever, like all these ideas. And then what they settled on was drag contest reality show.
Love it. And now there it is. It's so good though. Drag Race is so good.
You know, there
it's
were
so
spin-offs
to watch.
Right? There was like RuPaul's Drag University.
Yeah, Drag U.
Drag U was like...
Well, because anyone who's on Drag Race is indebted to them for eternity. So they have to do these like little shows.
These other side projects. World of Wonder now. Global Spanning Empire. Yeah.
Wow.
Including like UK Drag Race.
and Australia Drag Race, and like Thailand Drag Race, just all the drag races. But it is like, yeah, you should watch The Queen. You should watch Paris is Burning. You should watch, there's a newer one that came out a couple of years ago.
Pose?
No.
On FX? Oh.
No, it's a movie. It's not The Queen. Oh God, I forget.
Pose is like the TV show version of
don't watch that
fictionalized
one.
version of Paris is
I
Burning.
mean, do because Billy Porter's hot,
Billy
but
Porter's
like, no, there's another documentary on like, which is, it's really good, and like it's cool because there's like parents in the audience. I watched some of it, but I forgot the name of it, the newer one. Okay. It's really cool because there's like parents in the audience, and that's like something you don't see in like Paris is Burning. You see like kids being like, I'm running away from home.
Yeah, it's true. Paris is Burning has a lot of like troubled youth who are involved in like drag culture, but also like have serious issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like heartbreaking in its own way, but as well as like, a documentary about the importance of family.
But watch it, and also watch Drag Race because it's really fun and like campy, and the fashion's great, and it's fun.
Well, and Drag Race has become this pretty amazing, like kind of empire and machine that launches drag queens to like pop culture, like icon status, reliably, like year after year, putting like new stars in the firmament for like, confused gay kids to like see like these icons, which is very cool.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just like fun. It's just like such a fun culture. It's just fun. I mean, really. Mm-hmm. Because it's like,
as Rue always says,
you can't love yourself. How in the hell are you gonna love anyone else? Which is also what they tell you in rehab.
No way, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're like, don't get in any relationships or like anything for the first.
That's not as catchy.
No, they say that, and then you're like, okay. What does that mean? And they go, you have to be here to like learn how to love yourself first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they had like a pithy catchphrase. But like,
no, they literally say the exact same thing that RuPaul says. Suspicious.
If you can't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love anyone else?
And they're like.
And then they tongue pop at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you really want to get your gay pride on this weekend.
Yeah, this was a primer. So now, after listening to the entire hour-and-a-half episode here of us stumbling through the facts of LGBTQIA plus rights history, now you're ready to go out and party.
Yes.
And attend Secret Loft's Gay Pride Party this Saturday night, where we will
Rainbow
have
Bright.
Rainbow Bright is the title of the party, where your fave, best, most wild rainbow colors. We've got DJ Power Patterns, New York City gay nightlife celebrity.
And burlesque
performer will be DJing. We've got DJ Remnique. He's like a hip young queer performer. He's going to be...
An artist. Just graduated from art college.
Probably going to be DJing in a dress.
Has two buns.
Has two buns.
They're very cute.
Yeah. We've got...
Wires of NYC.
Wires of NYC. He's a little plain.
He's the remix queen.
Queen of NYC. And we do have the
resident aerialist. We also have Maya.
We have Maya and Medea.
Who's like a professor of aerial, like literally. Medea, who's exogenous. That's
Medea, exogenous is her sexual
Peter
orientation.
Mercury, who's mercurious and amazing, and all of our friends and you're just like the icing on the rainbow, the cloud on the rainbow. And like, don't worry, you could just come as you are, or wear your like campiest, craziest stuff, and it's just all about like, I know the fight has to continue and whatnot, but like also you need to recharge and like let loose to like be a better fighter. So like come and do that on Saturday.
Yeah, this is all assuming you've bought tickets by now because the party is sold out.
Yeah, you can DM us with a picture of something that we'd want to see.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want a ticket.
If you want to convince us that you should be allowed to come. So we'll probably see this Saturday. If you can't get tickets to that, we do have a comedy show
on Friday.
that's not nearly as gay, but kind of. So maybe check it out.
It'll be a roller coaster, just like the history of gay pride.
Yeah.
Just like this.
But that should also
I'll wear rainbows, and I'll probably be serving you some drinks.
And if we don't see you in person, then we'll see you next week on Wednesday at the next question block, where I believe we'll be talking about America.
And how shady it is. And the dank-ass boat.
The shady history of America.
The dank-ass boat. The
sank-ass
boat.
boat.
The sank-ass boat. Yeah, so I'm at... Oh, yeah, and if you want to see me, like, do Ariel all around the city, you can look at my schedule, arielist.org. And go check out Wires NYC SoundCloud. He's got some great songs.
Dropping a new Pride remix this weekend, actually.
It's really good. I got a sneak preview.
Mm-hmm. And, and then you can check us both out in our schedule at secretloftnyc.com.
Yeah, so you want to play us out with Painted for the Gods.
Oh, yeah.
Gods.
Play my track. DJ.
Play my mother song. My mother trucking song.
Sinking. Bring it to the runway.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.